So.
All right, well, we'll get started as soon as this kicks on.
Sweet.
All right. We're happy to be back here with another interview. We've got John Owens here from the YouTube channel Frame Voyager. John, happy to be with you today. How are you doing?
Happy to be here too. It's great to be always great to be at NAB. And I would say most people would know me more as Frame Voyager than John Owens. So even on our Discord before we were talking, people were like, "Wait, your name's John Owens?" Because I showed my badge. Because we put abandoned cameras expert on this for all the fun content we usually do. So.
Absolutely, it's we've got all these pseudonyms here in this industry. It seems like, especially with YouTube. So, and then seeing the person in real life is a whole other experience as well. Because like I feel like I know you, but you don't really know me. But
exactly.
It's
well,
okay.
And most of the time what I get usually is like, "Oh, you're a lot taller than I thought you were. I thought you were shorter." So
I thought you were shorter and whatever. Like,
yeah,
I get it all the time. So understand. But tell us a little bit about what you're working on with that channel and how that
started. Yeah,
how it started.
So we kind of do just a brief overview. We do a lot of stuff on obviously abandoned cameras. So cameras that had potential. Well, some of them had potential, and you either ran into financial troubles or just didn't work out. Like a lot of camera companies that were transitioning from film to digital early on, and kind of going back through and taking a look at those cameras and the people that made them, and kind of giving a face to the name of some of these cameras, because content with YouTube a lot of the times, like everyone loves to talk about the specs and the specific camera of it, and our channel kind of focuses on, we're going to talk about the camera, we also want to talk about the people that are behind it and what they have done with it and stuff like that. So trying to get that human element, almost like that Apple thing, how like Apple likes to put the human element to their iPhones. Kind of doing the same thing with cameras.
Yeah, I love it. It's like so meta and nerdy in all the best ways that it's like my lunch channel. Like when I'm sitting at home working from the office and I just put it on, I'm like, okay, let's do this, and so much fun content. And I'm like, yeah, I learned a lot there, and even for me as the designer at Condor Blue, like I learned a lot. Like, ooh, let's avoid that type of thing, and here's some good things to put in the quiver. So. What goes into making some of that content, like the research and everything else?
So with our research, I used to do like most of it on my own. So it's a lot of like looking back through web pages that don't even exist anymore for certain projects, and trying to track down stuff that people like some companies have just like paid people to go wipe sites and stuff, so that you can't really find as much information on it anymore. But as I've really gotten into this and saw like, oh, I'm going to transition my channel kind of more over to this like documentary kind of filmmaking video essay thing about cameras and all that kind of stuff. I've found some different people who do documentary research for other YouTube content that I've brought on. Met them in Discord, so shout out to my researcher and writers that help me out with it, Cheekin and Elwood. So they, even right now, we're researching and writing stuff while I'm here. And then I'll go back through and we'll work on it together, and it just takes a lot of the stress and effort off of me trying to do all of the research all the time. So, and with these projects, you really want some other eyes on it just to make sure that things are correct, because there's so many details.
Yeah, it's like the built-in fact checking for you, so it's
yeah.
for sure good.
And even then, we still don't, you can't get everything right with some of these obscure kind of things, which people, our commenters make sure to let us know on the channel all the time.
You wouldn't be the first journalist to get something wrong, so you're in good company.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, talk to me a bit about, like, I've seen, at least from my perspective, there's been some, like, moving and shaking as a result of your channel, especially recently with the Ronin 4D. That was a hot video, and then it seemed like shortly after there was a release of that flex cable, and I personally, may be wrong, I think that the timing of when that was released was to do in part to your video.
It maybe not. It's actually funny because as soon as that was released, I hadn't even seen the release, but I knew something new was released because everyone came onto that video and said, oh man, this video looks really bad right now. It didn't age very well. And I'm like, well, it didn't really change much of what I was saying in the video, but I got to give it out to DJI. They did contact me after the video because I guess I caused quite the stir on their Facebook user forum because people were freaking out a bit because they didn't read the title fully, thought they were actually like killing the camera. So they contacted me to like, this is about your video where you said our camera's going to be abandoned. We're like, it's cool. Let's work together. And they actually I'm running around with one now, like playing around with it, but I'm doing some content with them where we're kind of looking behind the scenes of how they develop the camera, telling the story how I like to do it instead of doing it. So they're great. I would say I love how they're great how they respond to, I would say, constructive criticism around some of the stuff. So props to them for that.
Absolutely. It's gotten your foot in the door in a few unique situations.
Yes.
And that's very fun. Like I know with your lovely attire here.
Fran 8K.
Yeah,
Best camera ever created. Just the most pleasing skin tones and
right up there with Philip Bloom's Barbie cam, I think that he used.
Well, and Philip Bloom was the only person to use this camera too, so that was fun. That was probably the craziest abandoned one we made, where it's like 6 months went by, just weird story with the camera created anyways, and the person who started it or built the camera reached out of the blue and was like demanding to do an interview with us and stuff. So. And then, so we
must do an interview.
Took down our video, and then we had like a week to take it down. So we did this whole live stream, like the farewell thing, and then we all watched the night before together, and then we got it back reinstated. But we made a whole other video on it. So if you want to see that, definitely check out it on our channel. It's probably the best abandoned episode.
It is amazing if you haven't seen it. First off, for sure, go over to Frame Voyager on YouTube. Yes. Subscribe. It's amazing content, very well researched. I love the depth and even the storytelling within it. It's not just like you were saying, this regurgitation of these facts. It's really cinema history. Yep. And the behind the scenes, and it's really fun. So tell me what's next for the channel. What are some things that you got an eye on?
So obviously there's only so many abandoned cameras in existence, right? And we're still searching through NAB to see if we can find any that might be abandoned in the future, just for future proofing. But yeah. But we're trying to look at some other things. Working on some things on like companies that either went bankrupt or defunct in kind of the cinema industry. We're also doing some things I'm sure you have seen on like Last of Us, or looking at how cinematographers, what equipment they're using and how they're using it, but also instead of just doing the essays on that, also looking at the equipment and the history behind it and why it makes sense that they're using it in it. So we're trying to kind of like take that fun research-based stuff we do for our abandoned stuff and transition it to other like popular like movies and things that are kind of coming out. So
yeah, absolutely, that sounds exciting. I mean, in that space there's a huge change right now happening, like where, and even from like the YouTube for a lot of these Hollywood DPs was kind of like a dirty word, where now like they're coming to it and like realizing, crap, these guys like actually know their stuff. They're creating cool content, and they've got some good points, and now we see these, you know, award-winning DPs and Oscar-nominated people like using these cameras that we're using, right? Mm-hmm. They're out there on these huge budget projects doing, you know, stuff at the Sony FX3 and other things. It's amazing.
Premiere Pro, different things like, I mean, like even just like what Everything Everywhere All at Once that got.
I know.
Stuff, which that was amazing. It's so cool that they won. I mean,
I was so happy about it. It was like the best success story in Hollywood, where, and not just for that team, but for the actors, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like,
and I think that's what's so cool about the cinema industry in itself, is just the stories behind everything. And there's a lot of people that don't hear about behind some of these very popular series and all that. So it's trying to kind of bring those stories up, show kind of like some of the interesting in-depth stuff behind it. And to me, that's where it's interesting for me, because I like doing the storytelling, creative kind of videos. And there's plenty of people like Gerald Undone and other people that do great camera, like look in-depth looks at cameras and reviews and all that stuff. And I mean, you can't beat them. So, you know, I go towards the storytelling. I kind of like doing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm very curious for that upcoming content. I'm looking forward to seeing more about it. And everyone, if you're listening and watching, you should be as well. So again, go subscribe. If you're here at NAB, as always, come join us at the Condor Blue booth. And, you'll be able to see people like John around the booth, and lots of fun. If you haven't heard, we are doing the QR quest as well, where you can come and scan these tiny little QRs, which are intentionally small so that you do have to be scavengering, key part of that hunt. But we've connected a whole list of a lot of our favorite brands that are very doubtful to ever be abandoned, and that's part of why we love them so much. So they may not make John's list, but that's okay. We want you to go to visit these amazing companies that are creating things that help the entire community. And so look forward to that. John, pleasure being with you today,
Awesome. Thanks for having
and best of luck with the channel.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see ya.
Cage. I have nothing but good things to say about